And this is what the word of God is telling us, that those who rely on human strength, those who put their trust in human beings, are like stunted shrub in the desert with no hope for the future. So a shrub that is planted in the desert, on top of that, it is stunted. There is absolutely no hope for it. No hope for growth, no hope for survival, no hope for flourishing. And that's what happens when we decide to trust in ourselves, in our own strength, in the strength of human beings, and not rely on God. Now let's look at what happens when we put our trust in God. The verse 7 says, the verse 7 of Jeremiah 17 says, "But blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. They are like trees planted along a riverbank." Hallelujah. Do we see the contrast there? So those who trust in themselves and human beings are like stunted shrubs, but those who trust in the Lord and have put their confidence and hope in Him are like trees planted along a riverbank with roots that reach deep into the water. Such trees are not bothered by the heat or worried by long months of drought. Reading this verse, every time I read it, I just think to myself, trees that are planted along. So if something is planted along something, so the picture that I had in my head is that the tree is planted, near the river or along the river. So it's not in the river, it's just along, maybe planted on the side. But then when you continue to read, it explains that with the roots of the tree reaching deep into the water. So even though the top part of the tree that we see is not in the river, its foundation is rooted deep into the water. And when we put our trust in God, it may not look like it in the physical sense, but when your foundations are rooted in God, when you know within yourself that your hope in this life is in God, your confidence for doing anything is in God, you will always flourish, regardless of what may be going on around you. When you are rooted in God, when you know that it is not by your might, when you know that it is not because of anything that you will do, it is just by the grace of God. When you know that and when you understand that, whenever something happens, you know where to go. You know who your source is. You know who to call on. When you are rooted deep into the river of life, which is our God, you are not bothered. The verse says that the tree that is planted along the riverside with its roots deep into the water is not worried of long months of drought. This is so beautiful, because when we put our trust in human beings, we are like stunted shrubs. There's no growth, there's no flourishing, there's no survival there. But when we are a tree planted along the riverside, we are not worried of long months of drought. Because you have to remember where the roots of the tree is, which means we don't have to be worried when long months of drought come. So, when you are in a situation where it looks like there is no hope, you don't need to worry, because you are rooted in something that doesn't waver. You are rooted in a God who is not man. You are rooted in a God whose strength no one can account for. You are rooted in a God who created the entire universe. You are rooted in a God who says, and it comes to being. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to be bothered of long months of drought or long periods where you're not seeing any movement, because you know where you're coming from. You know what you are rooted in. You know who you are rooted in. And this morning, I want to encourage us to trust in the Lord. I want to encourage us to trust in the Lord, because God's track record has never failed anyone. I always say this to encourage myself, that I have every reason to trust God, because his track record has never failed anyone. When you put your trust in God, when you fully rely on God, when your hope and your confidence in this life is in God, you will not fail. And this morning, I want that to be logged in here for you and myself, so that as we go out there, as we get on with our lives, nothing that comes will move us, because we know who we have trusted in. When you continue to read Jeremiah 17, when you read the bottom of the verse 8, so it says, yes, such trees are not bothered by the heat or worried by long months of drought. Their leaves stay green and they never stop producing fruit. Their leaves stay green and they never stop producing fruit. That is what happened to the tree that is planted along the river with its roots deep into the water. Their leaves stay green and they never stop producing fruit. So you and I, when we put our trust in God, when our confidence is in God, when our hope is in God, we will never stop producing fruit. Even in times when everyone is finding it difficult to be productive, you will never stop producing fruit, because your source is the King of all the earth. You will never stop producing fruit, because your God is the great God. So sometimes when we are facing challenges, or when we are waiting for something to happen and it's taking long, it looks like we're losing hope, or our confidence is beginning to drop. But I want to encourage us this morning that the God you and I serve, he is the God who always comes through for his children.